This is getting to the point where it's insane.
There we go. Hello, stream. If you're seeing this, that's Wolf in the background. He's just hanging out because he's killing monsters.
Yep.
And I'm here to teach you a subject or two about how financials work. In all honesty, the truth of what I'm actually doing is I'm showing you how to do basically plan for a move. That's what the start of this will be. We'll go into college stuff after this. So for those watching this on YouTube, I will have linked down below the link to view this Excel sheet that I'm working on, so you too can download it and kind of put your own stuff in and change up your numbers. So just as a heads up. So for what we're doing, simple is Wolf's here kind of to remind me in case I forget something, as he's had to deal with more of this shit than I have in person, whereas I come up with this is more of my own experience of coming up with ideas.
hmm
So first off, what you want to do is create yourself a main sheet in Excel. It's if you don't know how Excel works, basically you're in the wrong channel. You need to go Google how Excel works. There are channels for that. I am not teaching a class on Excel. I took 4 classes on Excel. They suck ass. Um, let me tell you.
They really
So
do.
what we're doing today is we're going to create 4 sheets to start you off. These are very simple equations. Anybody can do this stuff. The only thing I'm using is the sum equation. Everything else is based on basic mathematics. So, starting with a main sheet, this is going to be where you break down every number into an actual profit line. As you can kind of see, I have a gross profit, I have an income line, I have a net income, and then I have my actual profit, which I forgot to glow up in yellow. So these lines, everything in yellow is your money, your personal wealth. You want to make sure that this is positive, otherwise you're in trouble. As we all know in accounting and in finance, if your investments or income is negative, you're not doing well. So right now you can see that my numbers aren't. There's nothing really plugged in here. The only thing I've done at this point is set this up for the rent costs. So, starting with this main one, you want to start out with your income. You want to kind of get an idea of what you're going to be making when you're there. This can go for college or personal income. Then you want your income tax. Now, I'm moving to Seattle, as I've mentioned, like, I don't know how many times at this point. So, the income tax in Seattle is not, sadly, not non existent. There is an income tax of 9.17, but this is a much nicer number than 30%, which is what Oregon currently deals with. Um, so we want to make sure we have that in there due to the fact that we may not, we want to account for that when we are looking at our profit or our money because we are going to have that taken out of our check. You can easily Google what the income tax of whatever country or state or province you're moving to within a few seconds. Next is sales tax. Now, in the US, we have the rare concept that not every single state has sales tax, and some states have more sales tax. Washington has a very high sales tax compared to most states, but they also have one of the lowest income taxes because of it. So we want to make sure we calculate that because whenever we're calculating our food, which is probably going to be our biggest expense, especially if you are like me and like to weight train or go eat, it's going to be expensive. So you want to add that into the factor. Next is rent. If you're not living anywhere, you can leave this zeroed. All these numbers you can leave as zero. This will auto-calculate as we go as the equations are created. Now, I am using this to link to something else, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Utilities is the same thing. If you're going to live somewhere, you're going to have to pay utilities. Utilities suck, but they're not the end of the world. You want to make sure you keep track of that. Then your medical and dental, assuming you have a job, as well as car insurance. I don't drive, so I can leave this as a simple zero. Wolf does drive, so therefore, someone like him using this wants to know what his insurance car is going to cost. Now, he can create a separate thing for cars specifically for that spreadsheet to break down how much he can afford for a new car and all that if he feels like it. I don't do that because I don't need that. But you can easily link that over. Next is food. Food is your most important bill. Remember this, you have to eat to survive. So, and most of us like to spend money on food. So, because of that, I want to make sure that this is up and this is on here because for me, food is the biggest bill that I'm going to have as I like to eat a lot. Even on my current diet, I still eat, God, I don't even know how many calories. I think I'm down to like 1,500 calories. Are you teaching? Because you, yes, I am, Robert. And fuck off. You're not welcome here if you're going to say you. All right, listen now. You could learn something from this. Who knows? So, So that gives us our gross profit. After we've taken out all these things, we have our gross profit. Our gross profit isn't the money we take home. This is the money we factor in that we have after we've paid off all the necessities. If you haven't paid your necessities, you're going to be homeless, or hungry, or diseased, or even worse, you'll be Robert. Um, Next, after that, we start in with our luxuries. Now, our luxuries are basically our, like your Amazon wish list, stuff you want to buy. You smoke cigarettes, that's a luxury. You don't need cigarettes. Video games, condoms. I don't know why that came to mind first. And yeah, so on and so forth. This is this type of stuff that you're not really going to make a big deal out of, and doesn't have to be there. So these are going to be short term and long term. In this case, we're starting with semi-monthly because you should always know basically not only month to month how much you're making, but you should also have an idea of how much you're making every half month. Some companies will pay you, if you have a college education and get a job with them, they'll pay you semi-monthly. Some will pay you monthly, so on and so forth. Pets are another thing. I consider pets a luxury personally, a non-required item. Some people don't. You can switch these up. You can put pets up here. It'd be a quick drag, just a quick drag and drop up here if you wanted to, by inserting a row. Go in here, hit right click on the row, 9 or any row, hit insert, and boom, you've got a row. And you can drag pets up to here. Now, gross profits, the way we did do this to calculate it is we did do basically taking our income and subtracting out, and I actually mixed up on this one. This isn't supposed to be B5, it's supposed to be B2. Oops, B3, sorry. There we go. Because all this is going to factor in to your income tax. So this is a simple sum equation. It's not hard to fit a concept. It's just the sum of all this, all the items in red. It's one of the most basic Excel formulas you can make, and it's just SUM parentheses, pick the first cell, shift click all the way down to what the end cell is going to be, and it'll sum up all of those together, and in this case, subtract it from our income. Again, the same thing here, net income. Net income is now after your luxuries. Now, this is assuming, again, that you spend anything on luxuries. If you don't plan to spend anything on your luxuries on a semi-monthly basis, then leave this as zero. You're fine with that. If you're the type who's like, okay, I'm going to reward myself every semi-annually, well, then we'll factor that in down here later. That's why these don't have equations. Unlike with the monthly stuff, this is all based on the previous semi-monthly calculation, multiplying it by 2 because of the fact that it is a 2-period paycheck. So, same thing though, as I said with net income, you're just taking the original gross profit and minusing out your luxury and your non-requirements. Now, lastly, this is where it becomes kind of interesting. So, one of the things I've learned in life, as far as a good financial habit to have, is you want to open up 2 savings accounts. Now, I recommend doing it with separate banks personally, so you get one with a credit union and one with an actual big bank, because this way you can avoid spending that money. So, in my experience, doing a smaller bank for a long-term account is much better. Something like a credit union where you'll get a higher interest rate is really good for you. So now, I split this up as a idea of, okay, I'm going to take what's ever left of my net income, multiplying that by 25%, I'll put that in my first savings account. This is my savings for a rainy day. I have this to pay off my modern stuff, luxuries, whatever I need to. Basically, this is your immediate savings. This is the one you can draw from at any time to your other accounts. Then you have your long-term savings. Your long-term savings, as I mentioned, is the savings you get with like a credit union where you have the highest interest rate possible. This you want for the idea that basically you're thinking, okay, I want this thing to be around when I'm 60 years old and retiring. I want this account never to be touched, and therefore it just keeps putting money into it. Now, again, you can change each of these rates. I set them to 25%. Pretty simple overall. Lastly is your long-term luxury. This is for, like, for example, me and Wolf are both people who are looking at apartments right now. Now, both of us have interest in eventually owning a house. So that's a long time luxury overall. Now, some might consider that as a required payment. However, until you get to the point where you can afford it, it is not. It is a long term luxury. So I factor in about 5% of whatever I have left to go straight towards my long term luxury investments, basically sitting there for whenever I want them eventually, to build up into that savings. And then you get your actual profit. Pretty simple. This stuff all is calculated over, keeping this really easy and not trying to overdo the numbers. This all self-calculates and, works. If you have any questions on this, let me know as we go. Next, so on the secondary sheet, you create your rent. Now, this is the sheet I created basically for the idea of here's what I expect to pay in rent. I don't know if I'm going to have something specific or if there's going to be a set rate. Now, you can change this accordingly. I sourced it all to, I believe, place one, which was 1200, which was the cheapest place I found in Seattle. It was in the far north, and there was no one around there. It was also a very ugly looking building, but it is an option, and therefore I took the lowest rent and then put it in there. This is just so that way, as I work through the main sheet, if I have a bunch of actual profit at the end, I can then change it and say, oh, so that means I can afford this. Now, you can easily do this differently by specifically just changing one number. The reason I don't do that is just because of the fact that I want to be able to specifically go to each place and see what it is, and then later on name them properly. So, like, let's say this is North Seattle. I would just change this place one and NS for North Seattle. I would know, okay, so this is that North Seattle place. This is how much that one costs. And then this is, I don't know, Queens Anne. So QA. So I know that on average in the Queens Anne district, it's 2,300 for each for rent for each month. So these are bi-monthly or for monthly rates, and that's basically kind of the idea here is that I want to be able to look at this and say, okay, here's the number I'm looking at specifically. Here's the place it is. Now, luxuries, another one. So with luxuries, again, you want to basically do your immediate luxury stuff you want. This is typically going to be like your Amazon stuff. So for example, there's a computer chair I want that's about 500. $500 currently. So as I put that in there, you can see the total is here. And if I go now over to the main sheet, now we go into my luxuries, which are going to link straight over into this account as my immediate luxury. And there's another bit of money I have on here. Now you can link this again. You can choose to do this by a semi-monthly or bi-monthly or by semi-annually just to see what you want to get. And this will change as you go. So after you buy this, it's only a one-time purchase. So you don't have to worry about it after that. But if I'm saying, okay, within the first month I need this, and then a standing desk, let's say, is 800, even though I think that's way overpriced, but you never know. Maybe I'll find some rich desk that's really expensive. And then we have, again, it goes up 1,300 now. Stocks are about the same thing. Let's say I want to spend on a semi-monthly basis, $250 on stocks. So we've got our overall for the first month and the these immediate expenses that I want on my luxuries. I go over here, I can see, okay, that's 1,550. It is quoting over, so right now with no income, I am currently going to be owing about 2,150 each every 2 months, which is a lot considering my income. Let's put 2,500. All right, we know that income tax will be 229. Pretty easy. We know our medical, let's say, is 150. We'll put dental at 150. Food, I don't know, let's project $100 every 2 weeks. Pretty easy. So our current gross profit isn't that great, and we're actually in the negative when it comes to net income right now. So that tells us right now we need to readjust our luxuries. Now, pets, this would be you can set up a separate sheet for this if you're looking at many dogs or animals and seeing what prices are comparative, and then figuring out what long-term prices are. That's up to you. I'm not in this case only because of the fact that I'm gonna wait, or I plan to adopt, which is expensive in the first part, and then I'll be focusing on their medical fees. But my work covers all that in part of my medical and dental expenses, which is kind of nice. So, with that in mind now, of course, again, I have no cars, so, we don't have to worry about that. But there's one main thing you're seeing that's not filled in here. We're not seeing the utilities. Utilities is the big one right here. So, with utilities in mind, we need to figure out what that's going to be. So, after looking at luxury, now luxury, as I mentioned, we are looking at this. Now, this, I've got long-term stocks and housing. So, if you want to add this in, you're welcome to, and you can put that on like an annual basis. However, at this point, I have not. And I'll go into that here in a minute. Lastly, we do utilities. So I don't know off the top of my head what the average utility cost is, just because it's been a while since I've had to deal with any of that. But we're gonna make this real easy to figure out. We're gonna go in here, set all these to dollar signs, and we're just gonna say each of them are, I don't know, $200. It's probably not, but it's probably maybe I don't know, for semi-monthly it's probably a lot less. But let's just assume as just a random number to put in. Now we can come over here and see what our utilities are. So seeing this, we can see how much our gross profit is, what we should be looking at, and so on and so forth. Now, if we zero this out, as we should, as we realize we can't afford that, we get about $62 left, which means our actual profit in the end is only $28 on a semi-monthly basis, $270 on a monthly, and you can see from all of this, the take-home at the end is only $3,240. Now, of course, I am over-assuming with a lot of these numbers. There's no reason your utilities should be that much, but this is the assumption showing how it affects into the calculation. So by changing these up, you can put this down to 100, let's say, for each. Like, all right, I know my phone is 75. I know cable I'm not going to have. So we're not going to worry about that. Internet, I don't know. If you get it packaged, let's put it at 100 bucks. Garbage, it's usually included in in your rent, so let's zero that out. Water, maybe 150 a month at most, or on a monthly basis. So let's put instead 75. Electric, probably roughly about the same. Given that now, we go over here and we can see our profits are a little different. And we can now plan for this, of course. Now we're seeing a little bit more difference in here overall, and it's kind of adding to it. This is how you kind of connect everything up. And I wanted this to be very clear that as you go through this, you can change these numbers at any time. You can change your percentages, you can change any of this. Now, some numbers I wouldn't recommend changing, like your semi-monthly rent is going to be 50% of your monthly rent, typically. So you want to make sure you factor in for that. Now, that's at the cheapest rent. Now, if I change this rent to, let's say, because this is going to be that times that. So let's change this instead to B4. So B4 is the 1900. If we're changing it to that, you can see that our profits go down. Again, it's not bad, it's just not great. So we do have to account for that. Now, if food is 100 bucks, we know that our sales tax will be this. It's not, again, not that big of a deal. It does add up as time goes on, and that's what this is. That's the whole point in this sheet, is to show you long term how does this add up. So now let's say with luxuries, I'm going to take the current luxury of what I want. Like, I'm going to get all of this stuff on a monthly basis, but I'm only going to save it up for, let's say, half of it for that month. So I'm going to set half of it aside. Oops, one sec. Yes, I know. Divide by 2. There we go. Then I know, okay, for the monthly basis, I'm going to save up $775 for each month. Now we're going to take that number in total, and we'll know that if we're factoring in for that, then we're going to do this for semi-annually. So we know that semi-annually, we are prepping for about $4,650 to be saved, specifically for any luxuries we want. Now, this may change, so you can change this. If you decide there's no more luxuries you want, then you're fine on that. If you plan to pay for it all in 1 month, then, again, you're good. Same thing with pets in this case. So this is kind of how this Excel sheet overall works. It's a simple yet easy system to work with, and overall there doesn't take much more into this. Again, you can add to these overall as we go. So for example, as I mentioned, we have a long-term luxury thing set up. Now we know we're going to be saving about 5% each month. Now let's say we want to find out how long is it going to take to afford. I don't know. An average house is probably around 500,000, I think nowadays. Is a pretty close estimation. Let's say long-term stocks. We'll zero that out for right now. Let's just focus on the house. So with that in mind, we can take how we're gonna call this how long to afford a house. So doing that, we're going to go ahead. I just do this because it bugs me otherwise. So I merge that. We're going to do a price tag here. So we now know how much it's going to cost for a house. With that in mind, we're going to say that divided by our main sheet long-term luxury rate. So if we wanted to put this in the idea of days, we can go in here and easily look at that and say, okay, it's going to take 17,014 days. That's a lot of days if you really think about it. Let's see. I'm just going to leave it as is for right now. So yes, pretty kind of easy to figure out overall. Summer term or fall? Fall. Okay. Thank you, Fuka. By the way, Wolf is still here if any of you have questions on what I'm doing with this and he think he should be the one answering, just in case, because I have had people ask that.
I am still here.
But yes, so this is
I'm just chilling in the back.
perfect. So we know that if we're going to do this, this is going to take 17,014 semi-annually or semi-monthly. So with that, we know that we can then take this number and divide it by 2 again to find out how many months it would take. 8,507 months. So this is semi-month, which is a long time, but that's assuming you stay on the same. If we do semi-annually, let's see. And then annually, we take this, divided by 6, and then we can take this and divide it by 2 again. And we realized it would take 708 years to save up on a current $29.39. It would take 708 years to get to a house of that cost. Sounds about right.
Oof.
Now, again, this is assuming a lot of things. These are things that you can easily change as you go along and mess with. So you can choose that, say, instead of 5%, I'm going to do, I don't know, 15. And then it'll shorten it up completely on what you're planning. Now, as you do that, you do want these to all adjust. So one of the things that I do recommend you actually do when working on this is always link up your calculations so that way, as you update things, it updates all of them individually. Kind of a lazy way to do things, but it saves you a lot of trouble long term doing any of this stuff. And the reason is, it's just, the reason I'm just hitting equals and then clicking the cell is that's how you cite your what you're wanting this to equal out to. So in this case, if I now change this to the L luxury to 25%, all of these update to that. And then I can go into my luxuries and I can see, oh, well, that's only 141 years that I have to save to get to 500,000. Now, this is, of course, assuming that you're paying for the house up front. Remember that for a first-time house owner, you can actually get upset or set up to where you only have to pay 10% or 20, depending on your purchasing. So you do need a 10% upfront of this. So doing that, and if we now instead switch this sheet from F2 to this on a 10% rate, that's only 14 years you have to save up, which is a lot better considering. Same thing goes here with this same situation. You can do this times this, and you'll get a different number. And you can basically take the same calculation you have right here, and while dragging it down to source it, do always make sure that you do a dollar sign on the cells you want to keep being sourced. It's the easiest way to keep it going here. So if I drag this down now, it will continue to source B17, but instead it's saying, oh, well, you're sourcing G3, right? Which in this case we are not. We are sourcing this, and we want to make sure to adjust that. So, and then we just basically are going to do this. We can drag all of these down now, which makes it a little easier for you just to see. So again, now you can see, and this can be adjusted as you change up your income rate. So let's say I got a raise to semi-monthly, let's say it doubled, which that'd be amazing, but not likely.
That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, that's a new job I've just gotten. We can see, okay, this is 5,000. All right, now we're seeing how much we're setting up. And if we set this, we go back into luxury, we can see, oh, well, it would only take 2.92 years to get the 10% up. Not too terrible. On that, then we can change our rent to, instead of being B4, we can do B5, the most expensive option as we decide to upgrade. Well, now we're at $2,300 a month, so it's a little more spendy, but still not too terrible. And we can see how that affects everything. So and of course, as I mentioned, I'm going to upload this so you guys can all see this and basically work off of this Excel sheet for your own work and check that out. Now, with that being said, we can do the same thing doing a college one. Let me just save this real quick. Let me turn off my screen share for the moment so you guys don't have to see all that. And then I'm going to open a sample one that I did for a cousin of mine. We'll just call this book Moving Fees. Because I'm uncreative as a finance person, my recommendation is never be creative with your name titles, otherwise you tend to forget shit. Oops. It's the rule of like accounting and business. Don't be creative. If you're creative, it's then you gotta learn how, or you gotta think about all this shit, and you forget. And it's like if you just name it directly on what it is, it just saves you a lot of time. All right, let me see. Where is the one I did for Trend at one point? I know I did a folder for. Um. Oh yeah, school loan thing. I did that, but that doesn't matter. That's another thing you can factor in is school loans if you want to pay that off. Don't got to, but I recommend it.
I'd
uh,
recommend paying your student loans.
yeah, I highly recommend that. I mean, it's up to you, of course. You know, in the end, you're there. You get to choose. Just remember, if you don't, they add up. So that can be an expense line you can add in. Did I delete? I may have deleted that one. Let me look. Maybe it's in this account. I've got so many Google Drives that I just don't remember. Okay, maybe it's in this one. No, that's books. Let's see. So not that account. Wolf, where did I put that damn finance sheet?
Oh, just right over there.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I knew you knew. Um, I thought it was in this account, but maybe not. Let me see. Yeah, let's see where her account is linked to. Okay, it's not linked in this account. Maybe it's linked in my other one. Give me a moment, guys, as I look for this thing. Let's see. No. I may have deleted it. Now that I think about it, I think I deleted it when I was pissed off about something. Let me see if I've got a sample of it in here somewhere. That'll happen. Oh yeah, my stock market play. I forgot about that. I was actually keeping track of stocks for a while. There was a really good one that I did for it. Let me look through my entire computer real quick. Yeah, because I basically went through and calculated out my little sister's entire loan information in like, I don't know, an hour or something like that. But I could have sworn.
To be fair, loans are pretty straightforward.
No, it wasn't loans. It was like her grants, how much it was going to cost her to afford college, what money she could expect back based on her grant money. Everything you need is what I had set up with that.
Mm.
I just don't remember what Google Drive I saved it on. Because I have a couple of them. And by a couple, I mean like lots. Classwork, maybe? No. It's not my Clash of Legends folder. I knew that. Personal stuff. Untitled folder. No. These are just game concepts. Is there an Excel sheet in here? Nope. That'd be a nice thing if you could just get a or look for a specific specific style of folders or documents. Not in that. It's not in resume. It's not my personal stuff, I assume. Yeah, I just looked in there. Journal. No, I don't know what that was. Okay. Did I make it in here? Maybe I did. Un momento, por favor. I will eventually figure it out. Okay. Yeah, it's not in. Apparently, I have a bunch of things for trinkets. Oh, that's part of our Minecraft server. Alright. That's why. This is my most professional finance stream I've ever done. Also, it's the only finance stream I've ever done.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Let me see. I think maybe it's in. No, that's printed. Random crap, probably. Yep, here it is. Perfect. I knew I had it somewhere.
In random crap.
Yep. That's and it's in my
That's my
school
favorite folder.
Yeah, right. All right. So this is just a mock-up. Let me screen share again. Woo! All right, so coming into here. So basically, I did this one a little different. This one is with info. So this is based on PCC cost. Now you can take the same thing and change it to your college very easily. I went onto their website, looked up how much an online credit costs per one credit, not four, not three. I don't care about how many credits is. I just want to know how much each individual credit costs, so that way we could factor that out based on the classes. So just to clarify, because with my community college, most of the classes were all 3 credits. At university, they were all 4, except for my capstone, which was 6. So, and then of course, same thing with in person. Online and in person are different. Online's always more expensive, except for during COVID when they're nice. Again, hourly wages, easy thing. You know, you can type this in on how much you're getting paid, assuming you're getting paid at all, and figuring that out, as well as updated tax info, which is always good to know what your tax calculator is going to be. Now, looking at Pell Grant, this is the most Pell Grant you can get as a student currently in the United States as a in-state tuition. I don't know if this changes if you're out of state or if you're out of country. The Oregon grant, which is called the OG grant or something like that, which is another, $850, and then work study, whatever you get rewarded out. You want to know how much all this is, so of course I totaled this out. I did a total and a per term. You want to know your per term and your total so you know how much you're going to be making to keep it easy. Again, then transportation, very big. This is just a general information. This is the main sheet I will source back to every time I'm working on calculations. So we have our transportation. We know that, like, for example, here in Oregon, TriMet is $5 a day for a ticket. Lyft is about $12 to get from that person's place to PCC. Driving for the count of gas at the time, which was a little actually more expensive than it is now, was about 0.56 to get there and then to get back. So it'd be 0.56 each time, and then a parking permit, which was $45 for the month, or yeah, not per day for the month, but food, then of course I had this set up in case we needed a calculation for this. If you already know your food calculation, that's definitely a good thing to have down, because that will factor into your prices. Food is expensive on college grounds if you don't bring your own meals. All right, same thing with textbooks. Textbooks on average, this was the cost that they offered, recommending. Now this again will change depending on what country you're in, what state you're in, what book you need. On average, I think my textbooks cost somewhere around like $300 a piece, but community college is cheaper. This was just a general graph I was working on. I don't remember what any of this is. I don't know why I even have that. So looking at that, I then took in the idea of, okay, I know your hourly wage, so we're going to take your hourly wage, timesing it by each of the amount of hours you can work per month, and figuring out what the total was going to be after tax. Now, of course, I did the tax rating here, which I think came out wrong, but with that, it takes basically this time, or info B13, which is, wait, B13 of 1350, timesing it by the amount of hours. The tax thing is, you can ignore this. This was a old system that was predated. I think it was like before. This was before tax, or after tax. This was before tax. And as you can kind of see, I got rid of it later. Same thing here, looking at the amount, breaking it down by a weekly basis, knowing that they were working 15 hours a week each week, and so figuring out their factor of pay based on their rates. Going over here, we do it by term. Remember, terms are 3 months, so you want to make sure you have that factored in. You want to know the before or after tax and before taxes. And then the same thing goes. It basically, in this case, instead is 24 5 hours, which I didn't end up doing the calculation for in the end, mostly because they didn't end up wanting the week breakdown. The person just wanted the per term breakdown. But if I was going to do it, I would just basically do the same thing here and instead do 25 hours, so equaling that, making a quick 25 right here, dragging it all the way down to 89 weeks, just as a sample number, and then equaling this times our original source of 1350. Nope, that one. And boom, you're done. And all you gotta do is make sure that this number is, of course, set up to be, always kept by putting the dollar signs in between the letter and the number and before. Drag it down, and boom. Easy as you can be. And you can kind of now see, okay, here's what the final pay of each week is going to be if you're working 25 hours. Same thing again, term. You want to figure out, okay, you'll be working in total 300 hours. Easy enough. A simple calculation of 25 times 4, 25 hours a week times 4 months times 4 weeks, sorry. 25 a week times 4 weeks, taking that total and timesing it by 3 because you have 3 months per term, giving you the before and after tax. Again, same thing when it came down to the 35 hours. It'd be really easy to work up again, the same thing. But this gives you a general idea overall. Now we have a financial roundup, which is basically where you look at for cost online. Here's what each for 2 classes would cost. This is what it would cost for 12 credits and then 18 credits. This is why we wanted the per credit basis so we knew exactly the pricing and had both a cost in person and online. Taking this, we basically went through and created a calculation of month of 8 online credits. This is what you'd have to what you have to break down because as is, you'll have 0.25 because there is going to be 3 to 4 months. This should actually be a 0.33, but the calculation works. And this is based on 35 hours. So, or this one's based on 15, this is based on 25, and this is based on 35. The same thing goes for the other side, and the only difference in here is that, wait, what the hell? Did I do? Oh, wait. Month, online, in person. Did I just do the same thing? Oh, I did these with the as 15 hours. So here's the minimum. I was like, wait. Oh wait, no. I did do this twice. Why did I do this twice? Fuck me.
What a fool.
I legit did this twice. Why did I do that? Why would I do that to myself? That's the 35. Yeah, and it calculates towards what? Oh, one was with max textbook cost, one with min. That's why. Okay. And so this is again just kind of figuring out a rough calculation. So this is how you kind of plan out your finances for college. So of course, as you can see, in person it would cost about $7,203 in total. If you did 18 credits, this would be your the end value. Pretty simple overall with everything else factored in. Yeah, and that's pretty much how you do financials for both college and moving. For those who are wondering. This, I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is. I think I made this by accident. I was messing with something. I don't have a clue. But everything else, that's a pretty simple tool to work with. I will upload both of these for you guys to check out and link them with this. And if you have any questions in the future, feel free to always PM me and we can go over it. Thank you all for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed the stream.